Welcome to the Wander Mode podcast, where we celebrate the fearless spirit of women embracing life's wanderings. Where every story is a spark of inspiration and reminds us that sometimes the most beautiful moments happen when we simply embrace wherever the journey may lead. Boy, do I have quite the chat for you today. I am so thrilled to introduce Monica Curtis, or Mick Curtis. She is a dynamic storyteller and speaker who lives by the empowering motto, BADE, be anything, do everything. Through her YouTube channel, Monica connects deeply with others, thriving on their energy and inspiring women to break free from barriers and live their most fulfilled lives. Monica is also a proud mama to two almost grown kiddos, and today she will share her journey of helping women embrace their potential and rewrite their own stories. Monica, I am pumped for our conversation today because we had such a good conversation when you interviewed me on your YouTube channel, which I definitely want to talk about, all of the things that led to you being a creator of a YouTube channel. But what is top of mind for you today?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm having one of those rough moments. You caught me in a bad day. And if I didn't love you so much, I would be like one of those days where I just want to go under a rock. I'd be canceling and avoiding and doing what sometimes comes very natural to me when I don't want to deal with what's in front of me. But it's just being hard. And entrepreneurship is hard, and being a solopreneur is hard some days. And this is one of those days because in one hand, I love the world we live in where anyone can be anything and do everything in the point of like starting a business or sending a message or getting the word out. But it's also heavily weighed on likes, on algorithm. And as much as I try, my mind said, I will not get caught up in that. I will not care. It's not about the followers. It's not about this. There are days when I'm like, well, holy guacamole, this is a bad day. I'm getting nothing and I feel like I'm doing all this work and nothing is happening. So you caught me in a moment of like really second guessing, questioning my every decision. And I hate when I get here and I know I can't stay here long, but I'm just being really honest with you.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I left teaching and I became an entrepreneur, I started experiencing that roller coaster that you're talking about. I had friends that said, I guess I've been a little surprised by how much you've been on this roller coaster. I would have thought that it would have just been this, oh my goodness, I'm my own boss now. And it's all sunshine and rainbows and everything's going to be okay because you're working for yourself and you're doing this thing that you're driven to do. And I think even for people outside looking in, they expected it to be this rosy picture, right? Because it's so pushed right now. Like leave your W-2, leave your 9 to 5, have autonomy over your schedule. But oftentimes they don't realize the back end of that comes with a lot of varying emotions and a lot of pressure that we're putting on ourselves to be successful. And it really needs to be successful for a lot of us to not have to go back to something else. So is there one particular spot that you'd be able to identify and say, this is a pressure point that keeps coming back for me over and over and over again that sends me into these tailspins?
For sure. And I think two things that I want to address. I want to answer your question, but first of all, I think you're right on point. Is that people see the reels, they see the highlights, and they think that's what entrepreneurship is. And that's just part of the story. The other part is this conversation we're having right now. And for me personally, is that I am a serial entrepreneur, and we talk so much about niching down, niche. And while I believe my message is very honed in, I know exactly who I'm talking about. I want to do different things. So I want to create platforms, and I want to do collectives, and I want to do speaking, and I want to be on stages, and I want to, YouTube channel. I want to do so much. There are days when I'm really like, I'm not Superwoman. I can't do it all. And I don't have the back end to support that just yet. But, it's frustrating because I want to see things move along further. And I'm realizing I can only do so much if I've got 5 silos. And trying to force myself into 1 or 2 silos is really hard for me because I feel as a woman, I have had enough of this or that in my life. And I just want to live in the and I want to do that. And I want to do that. And. But some days are like this, like, okay, well, maybe the and has to come in sections. It doesn't have to be, can't be all right this moment. Does that make sense?
Yes. But at the same time, and I can hear this radiating through you, is that somehow it's almost viewed like you're failing when you can't do the and this and this and this. Because if you do have this true belief and then you recognize that there are realistic limits, time,
Yes.
sanity, needing to sleep, needing to learn a skill, it slows down that timeline, which I think for those of us, especially that I would consider to maybe be high achievers or put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be able to do all the things, then it can also feel like it's a failure. And then that makes it even more discouraging because you can't do it all.
100%, 100%. I need to be able to live in the moment, and I'll do this. So by the end of this conversation, you're going to get the cheerleader back, the Mick, like, yes, we can. But, I talk myself and then I have to recognize, like, okay, why are you feeling this way, to your point? Like, and I literally sound like a crazy woman because I sit and talk to myself like, okay, what's happening here? What are you feeling? And it's that crushing sense of not getting enough done. But then I say, okay, but can we spend a few minutes talking about what you have accomplished? And then I'm like, oh, okay, look at me go. Yeah, I did that, or we did that. And so, yes, to your point, it is that perfectionism, is that overachiever, it's that wanting to be all and do all. And it's an internal gremlin that I constantly work with, and I'm not ashamed to discuss it and talk about it, because as much as I am for mindset, I always remind women, including myself, that gremlin never goes away. That inner critic never leaves. It's learning how to live with her. And today I'm just making room for her. And I'm like, okay, what's your deal today? Let's work it out. Get on the therapist couch. Let's figure this out and move on.
Okay. I love that statement of we need to make room for her. That we need to make room for that gremlin. I think sometimes when we prepare ourselves for what the reality is going to be, it doesn't necessarily make it easier to ride out the downs. But when you know that it's going to happen, it feels less jarring, right? It's kind of like analyzing a roller coaster before you actually go on the ride. You're kind of like, okay, I know that part's going to make my stomach drop. Okay, I know that hill is coming or that loop-de-loop is coming. And it doesn't necessarily make the ride any less terrifying because I actually hate roller coasters.
You will not catch me in one, by the way, unless my kid's life is on the line. Not happening.
Yes, right? I know the things we do for kids, but like at the same time, it is one of those things that I think sometimes when you can analyze it and you can at least say to yourself, okay, I know that this is going to happen. And as you're saying, make room for her. Don't pretend that she doesn't exist, that little gremlin that's out there, because the more that you don't acknowledge it, the more I feel like it takes hold versus just saying, okay, I'm going to hold space for you today. Let's go ahead and just brain dump all the things that I'm frustrated by. I didn't increase in followers. That ad that I paid for flopped, whatever that thing is. Acknowledge it, call it what it is. But then now I have to focus on the other side, which is, what am I doing? What am I accomplishing? What is going right?
For sure. No, I call her making room for her because it's not only making room for her, it's just getting to really know her and understand her. And ultimately, she's just there to protect me. And so she'll try to hold me back, and she will say mean things to me, and she will try to derail me, but not because she doesn't want me to be successful. She's really just protecting that little girl inside. And if I don't go out there and do things that are scary, then I can't get hurt. Then I can't be disappointed. So I know why, how, and when she shows up. So whether it be, say, like the numbers or the views aren't there for YouTube, it's sort of like saying, okay, well, just quit, because you don't need any of that. And you can just go back to being old Mick, and old Mick is fine. I mean, it was fine. We weren't growing necessarily, but we were fine. We were comfortable. And I know it's a protective mechanism that shows up. And so it's me, the older version, the me who shows up as this person that wants to push the envelope, to be like, no, I want to learn and grow. I want to be different. I want to take up space. So I have to take her by the hand and be like, okay, I know you've been there all along to protect me. I don't need protection. We need to go and do this in spite of those feelings. And it's weird because I honestly sound like a crazy person. Like, who is she talking to and what is happening? But it's been my way to deal with her. And to your point, try to eliminate. And when people say, just overcome it and get rid of that inner critic and be confident and be those things, I said, yeah, that's just the hard way because she's not going anywhere. I don't care how much work you do. I don't care how many therapist sessions you have, how many coaches you have. That inner gremlin, the critic, never goes away. So if we make room for her, learn to deal with her. The one thing I would say to anyone listening, making room for her doesn't mean listening to her. Like,
Yeah.
don't listen to her and identify. What I'm saying is get to know her, identify why she shows up and when she shows up and how she does it, and then work around that. Like take her by the hand and do it anyway. Because holding you back and keeping you stuck and keeping you from doing the thing that you've been wanting to do, that's no bueno, amigas. That's not the point.
Well, and I think in personifying her, you recognize it's an aspect of yourself, but you don't have to be that. Like
Yes.
you get to make that a part of who you are, but in compartmentalizing that person, that girl, that woman, whatever stage it is that gremlin is in that it keeps calling to you,
Yeah.
you can then separate yourself, I think, a little easier from that and say, that's great. I hear you, but I'm this now, and I'm the one who's in control. So I'm curious to put some of this in context.
Sure.
Who was the past Mick, and who are you trying to be, and what is the future path that you see for yourself right now compared to comfy, cozy, easy peasy Mick?
Easy peasy, right. So I was this kid, and it all stems to inner child work. I mean, I think the little girl inside of us holds all the keys to who we are and who we want to be. And I know for me that when I think about that inner critic, that inner child that pops up, she lacks a lot of confidence because she was made fun of. And I was put on stages and I did not always belong, did not feel like I belonged anywhere, and was always, I don't want to say misfit because I wasn't a misfit, but I just blended. I was just kind of like, I was there, kind of, not really, right? I'm one of 6 kids. I'm number 4. I mean, it all adds up. And when you think about my life and who I am, I became those labels, like just there. And so now when I go to speak, because I love to get on stages and to empower women, she shows up like, are you sure you want to do this? Because that's really uncomfortable. You know, I'm like, oh no, we're doing this. This is how we show up now. We take up space. We spent a lot of time not taking up space and playing really small. And that little girl grew up to then be a wife and have children and then gave everything to them. So I gave it all. I gave the spotlight, the dreams, everything. On the sidelines, of course, I was there. Again, just a shadow. I became a shadow of myself. And so this awakening that I had over the last few years is me deciding, I don't want to be that person anymore. What about me? What about my dreams? What about my desires? And I have those, right? And spending time with self and learning like, oh yeah, I have something to say. And not only do I have something to say, I have a feeling a lot of women have something to say. And how do we get on this journey, and how do we come together and collectively start taking up space and using our voices to make noise and to be alive? So that's the journey I'm on now. But if I look back, I was none of those things. None of those things. Somewhere along the line, all that was stripped away. And yes, some of there were labels placed on me as a child, and some I decided were easier to carry. Some of those labels as a wife, mother, partner, like I played the sideline mom really well. I play the supporting role really well. But how is it that we're showing up in this world playing a supporting role in our own lives as women? And too many of us are doing this. And when I started blogging about this, all my messiness, a lot of women started showing up in my life saying, hey, I feel the same way. And that's why I'm not afraid to be vulnerable, and I'm not afraid to say my truth or where I am, because I know I'm not the only one feeling this way. Ultimately, one thing I know for sure, I'm not alone in this journey. And so I guess I'm going off a little rampage here, but I think it's so important to just own our stories, even if they're not great stories, and understand that we can rewrite. We still have the ability to author up and rewrite our happily ever after. And so that's where I'm at. I'm at the point where I'm not only rewriting my happily ever after, but I'm helping other women do the same.
Why is it so easy for us as women to play second fiddle and to just accept these other roles as our new reality? And it's not even that they're roles that we don't want, but it's really easy for us to just say, okay, I'm going to be this role and I'm going to be this role. And then that just becomes all encompassing of who I am. Why do you think we do that?
I think a few reasons. Number one, societal plays a massive role, right? These labels of what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a good wife, what it means to be a good mother, this or that. What are you going to choose? Am I going to choose to have my boys being raised by a nanny, or am I going to decide to work? Like, these are decisions we make, and they start so innocently as women. They really do, because guess what? To your point, I want to actually be a good mama. I want to be at Johnny's little game. I do, but I also want to be in the corporate world, and I still want to make an impact. But we aren't given a choice. The choice is this or that, right? So we thought. And they told us we could do it all, but then we couldn't do it all. And you're right, we can't do it all, but we can do it all with flexibility. So it's just changing the paradigm a bit and changing the mind shift. But the way the rules were set up, they weren't set up for us to succeed. They were set up for men to succeed. And I'm not here pointing fingers or male bashing, because listen, I love my husband, and my husband's been good to me. And we have a beautiful life. So thank you, Lord. And I have two boys, and I'm raising two men. So it's not male bashing. It's the idea that somehow societal pressures made us make these decisions very innocently. And then we got stuck in this playbook. And then this playbook, you become sort of complacent, and you are maybe content, because most of us are content. But contentment is not the same as fulfillment. Mm. And then you wake up and you realize, oh, wait a minute. I see everybody else around me playing big, and I am somehow kind of dim my light. So I think then we become really comfortable in that role, because that role is easier to do. Number one, I'm going to tell you, women are very good at pointing fingers. So I'm sorry if I upset anybody, but we are. Like, my husband this, my society this, my company wouldn't make room for me. Those aren't all wrong. Those are true facts. The glass ceiling, 100%. But at some point, women, we got to stick up and say, okay, oh, you're right. There's not enough room at the boardroom. There's only one seat at the table. Okay, well, let's go build our own table. Like, we've got to stop looking at what is and decide what we want and create that life we want. Yep. But we've been so stuck in well, that's how it is. I have to be a stay-at-home mom. My husband gets to work. I'm going to be the one that bakes cookies for the PTA so my husband can travel. Whatever the rules are, whatever the thing is, it's really become a this or that. And I want to become an and society with women and whatever you choose. By the way, I say all this to whoever's listening. And if you're a perfectly happy stay-at-home mom baking cookies, it is no disrespect to you at all. Keep on, gal. Just want women to do whatever it is that they want.
But I think you hit on that, is that, are you living a life, whatever that looks like, of contentment versus fulfillment? And I think that that's the core component, is that I think sometimes when we do get onto these conversations, we are talking about the and, right? Women should be able to raise a family and be a wife and be a CEO. And it is, are you fulfilled in the life that you're choosing to live? Whatever it is that looks like. And so I 100% agree with you that this isn't about bashing any particular lifestyle, but it's rather getting really honest with yourself about, am I living the life that makes me feel fulfilled? And if I'm not, what do I need to personally change to have that happen, and not blame anybody else? That's my responsibility in choosing what I'm going to do going forward.
100%.
Yeah.
You just said it in a lot less words, but I'm Latina, so I talk a lot.
I love it. I love all the words. I love all the words. And I think that, even if you can say that the excuses are valid, for example, the societal excuse, it takes a long time in history to change a trajectory.
Right.
So there was a point in time in history in which women were not given a lot of choices about what their adult life was going to look like, right? And that wasn't even that long ago when you think about it. And someone was telling me it takes around 100 years to fully pivot from one reality to something that's very different. And it takes all these tiny little changes tiny little changes to actually get to a new reality. And I think to some level, we're in the middle of it, right? Yeah. And so it feels messy for us right now, because we're having to rewrite what that story looks like. That it can look like I am fulfilled at home and taking care of my kids and homeschooling and raising my family and taking care of my home. Or I'm fulfilled by doing the CEO thing and baking cookies on the side and picking my kids up after work and whatever. Like, it takes time to rewrite that all of those aspects are okay.
You are right. It takes a long time for this evolution to happen, the changes. But I got one life and this is it. And I don't have that time. So I got to create the life I want now. And what does that require me to do? And it's doing things against the norm and against what women are being told to do. So I'm asking women to be selfish, which is like, what does that mean? Like, yeah, I need you to think about yourself and self-care and really dig deep and think about what you want and what you desire. And I don't look at that as selfish. Women do. It's actually self-care and the greatest of self-love. But if the word selfish gets you to like, give me an eyebrow lift and pay attention, great, be selfish. And so that's what I'm asking. By the way, I'm not asking anyone to do things that I haven't done myself. Like, yeah, I have to ask myself, I have to look in the mirror. For a long time, people were holding the mirror to me. It's like saying, you can, you are. And I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to dismiss it. So now I'm like holding the mirror for other women. Like, don't you see? Can't you see all that you are, all the magic that you behold? How dare you not share this gift with the world, right? And until women can hold their mirror for themselves, I will hold the mirror for them. But the point is, I am not in a position to talk about how it's going to change in the future. We are the future. We start deciding what we need and what each of us as women need, and creating that. I cannot wait for corporate America to make those changes for me. That's why women, boss moms in particular, excites me, is because it's just women entrepreneurs building the thing that it is that they want and doing it. And that's how we create the change. We're doing it. We're not waiting. We're building the table.
Yeah, we're in the construction mess, trying to clean it up as best as we can to make it functional, but like we've got a long way to go still. But it's like chipping away. And
collectively, we are so much stronger. And I think like we go ahead and bring Boss Moms because it's a great platform for anyone who's listening. You should all join. It's a collective. It's a sisterhood. It's no need to competition. Like there's room for all of us, right? And I mean, don't even get me started on the whole crab mentality with women. And to be fair to women, I understand why, but there's that whole there. The Boss Mom ladies are really showing up. We're showing up for each other. We're saying, how do we support each other? How do we lift each other up? That's where it's at for me. That's how we make a real change.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's through community. It's ditching the whole competitive mindset of I need to be better than you. I need to get ahead of you. I need to be in the front of the line, and collectively choosing to change something that is broken.
Yep.
For those of us that are wanting to find fulfillment in a life that involves working and motherhood and being a wife and being a friend, sister, etc. Because when you were talking about how you gave it all up and you played your roles beautifully, I got like emotionally stirred something in me, because when I chose to leave teaching and I said what it was that we were going to do, I had several people say to me, oh, you're never going to regret staying at home with your daughter and the time that you're going to get back from that. And I was like, I'm not staying home with my daughter. Like she's still going to go to daycare, just like she went to daycare when I was a teacher, because I'm choosing to work still. But there was this part of me that felt a lot of shame around, I'm leaving this job that somehow justified me sacrificing time with my daughter, to I'm working from home and for myself and trying to attempt this business, but that somehow that equaled, now that I'm home, I can then make room for more time with her in my day and not have her go to daycare. It was a very interesting, like, way to feel shame in not only leaving teaching to go do something for myself, which innately felt selfish.
Right.
But then two, I still have my daughter going to daycare, which then is viewed as selfish because I'm working from home.
Welcome to womanhood. This is where it's at. It's never ending. At every phase, there's that constant, and that's the gremlin. That's the guilt that never goes away. Because every decision you make, everything you're making, there's always that sort of injection, like, are you sure? Oh, like that, almost that passive aggressive. And you might be saying it to yourself, or someone else says it in passing. You're like, whew, and it sort of makes you pause. Can you get through the pause? Can you reflect, identify, and be like, okay, I got you anyway, and keep on shining is what I say. So yeah, you're right though. I can see for you how that would have been like a sucker punch.
Oh,
Like, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So much so that I couldn't even tell them I wasn't staying at home with my daughter. Like I couldn't even say that out loud because it caused me to really be like, oh my gosh, like, am I really messing something up here? Am I really looking at it from such a selfish standpoint that I can't see that this is what I should be doing instead now that I'm working for myself? And when my husband left his W-2 job for us to also grow this business, nobody asked him that question. Nobody assumed just because he was working out of our home that he was now staying at home with our kid and she wasn't going to daycare. That was not even on his radar
No.
at all.
And it's crazy, right? So when I talk to women, which I do, that's my jam, as you know, I'm always like, okay, I do this in my workshops. How many of y'all have kids? And, people raise their hand like, okay. And of course we plant seeds of possibilities to dream big, and we're raising them to just have aspiration. I mean, we do it as little as when they're playing in the soccer field, like, yes, be the best, go do whatever, compete, all these wonderful things. And you're raising daughters. Are you raising them to get married and then file their dreams away and then just focus on their kids? That becomes the evolution of women? It makes no sense. And I have 2 boys. Like, I want them to be everything and do everything that they desire that makes them feel alive. But I also want them to be connected with partners who feel the same, bring the same to the table. And I certainly don't want them to dim their light for another human being, including their kids. And that's not selfish, because it actually makes me a better mom. It makes you a better mom. Doing what you're doing, it's what an example to be able to say yes. Because you have dreams and you have desires, right? Don't those count? I think they do.
And that is hands down the reason, actually, when I was hesitating leaving teaching, that I was like, nope, I have to do this. Because what example am I setting for her? If I have this dream of starting my own business, even though I know nothing about marketing, nothing about social media, I wasn't even on Instagram before October. If you have this idea of something that you want to do, and if you don't at some point in your life choose to go after that, how can you ever say that you in some ways have led by example, right? I went after my passion, which was teaching for a long time. I thought I was going to retire doing that. But I get this little inkling, this little thing that's pulling me this other direction. And that was the first time where I said, if I don't capitalize on this, I have no way of being able to speak to her about sometimes our passions change. Sometimes we have to find ourselves in new roles, in new lights. Whatever it is that looks like. For some women, that might be, I'm now an empty nester and I have to find who I am now. And if you don't go after that thing, that pull of who are you going to be now, you will always just be what everybody else needs you to be instead of being what you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're talking my language. Yeah. And the hard part is getting women to not accept that, but be in the flow with that and sort of understand that. There's a growth mindset that comes along with that, right? With women, like, we're okay with these labels, let's say, that we want to be selfish or we want to follow our dreams. And it's not negative to us. We know the positive spin on it, but it would be helpful for the women who've been fighting really hard for that one seat at the table to realize that they don't have to compete. We're not competing with them. We're sort of a collective. Is much better. I think that would be helpful. And number 2, for the women who maybe are afraid to look in the mirror and really find out what it is that they want and desire, to maybe not be so critical of the ones like us who are trying to do the thing, because it should be a sisterhood and we should support each other, whatever path we're on. To me, the worst thing I could do is make someone feel bad about their decisions. All I'm asking them is to check in with themselves. Like, are you good? Like, if you're good, awesome. But if you're not, hey, that's cool too. Like, you can do something about it. You don't have to feel stuck. And understanding that is really critical. I always say it has to come with change. And sometimes that change requires getting rid of some negativity. And sometimes negativity comes in the form of people. And those are hard decisions to make.
You talked about how you were content for so long with what you were doing. What did that process look like for you when you first recognized, I need something different to actually feel fulfilled? Was it a book you read, a movie? Was it just a kind of a little tugging, nagging feeling? And then how did you go about that?
This is a true story. I have 2 boys, and my youngest was applying to college. So 4 years ago. And I was giving him the good old cheerleader mama, pep talk. Like, kiddo, you can be and do anything. Here's a blank canvas. Apply anywhere. The sky's the limit. Whatever you want. You're 17. Go for it. Like, dream big. All those things that we all do for our kiddos. I was saying all those things to him. And I walked away and I just had this moment like, oh my gosh, when did I stop dreaming for myself? When did I give up on my dreams? When did I stop painting my canvas? Do I even remember the colors I choose? What are my colors? What is my canvas? Like all these questions like, who am I? What am I? When did this happen? This version of myself who showed up here for everyone else again. And what about me? Who am I? And I did not know how to answer that. I just was at a complete loss. And of course, I did what I always do. I got on my Peloton because my Peloton is like my therapy chair. And I started writing and I started just crying, thinking, I don't even know who I am anymore. So I started blogging. I've always liked to write. I've always journaled. I started blogging and blogging and blogging and blogging with vulnerability about feeling like I was in no man's land, like I don't even know who I am. And the more I wrote, the more I discovered that other women were feeling the exact same way I was feeling. And the more I discovered my voice in my journals, and I realized, oh, I actually have a gift for being an uplifter. I actually have a gift for creating a positive change with people. How do I use this? How do I take my words to inspire action? And that led me to building a business to amplify women's voices, led me to speaking engagements, led me to more writing, led me to starting a YouTube channel to try to spread that word of saying, hey, checking in. Are you good? Because why not you, right? I always say we get one life, ladies, one life. Like, just make sure you're doing it the way you want to do it. So that's really how it's all started. But it really, that moment, I still remember it, like walking away thinking, dang it, what about my dreams? I was 18 once. I had dreams. I went to university. I wanted to make an impact. Where did all that go? And again, it was those small sacrifices. They were so small, if they weren't even sacrifices, because of course I wanted to be around for my kiddos. And my husband gets transferred a lot and through corporate moves. So we were moving a lot. I'm like, of course I want to be their one common anchor in all these moves. But I wish I'd known. Every time we talk to young moms now, I say to them, hey, listen, keep a toe in something. Don't forget who you are, your identity, because it's so easy to do. It's easy to become so-and-so's wife, so-and-so's mom, so-and-so's teachers. Like, you become all these things, all these labels. But I'm like, who were you before the labels? Before mom? Before your career? Who are you at your core?
Yeah.
That's what I want women to tap into. And if you can reconcile the two and align them with who you are today, that's beautiful balance. That's happiness. Yeah. That's sort of that little, oomph that you just see. People are like, okay, she's got her joy on, is what I say.
I love that. And to your point, it doesn't have to be major. Like when you say keep your toe in something, it could be, I'm going to stay a part of a monthly book club because I really love reading and that's going to help me prioritize reading at night before my head hits the pillow, or I'm going to listen to audiobooks in the car while I take my kids to soccer or whatever that thing is, or I'm going to stay a runner. So I'm going to prioritize running every day because that allows me to keep my mental health and my sanity in this hard thing that is motherhood, right? It doesn't have to be this big life jarring decision. But I think the more that you do keep a toe in something, it's like, well, now I want two toes in something. So I'm going to do book club and I'm going to have girls' nights.
Exactly. I think that those little passion projects, it's really important to really take care of them and feed that because those slow things can become big things, or they could just become things that really just bring you joy. I know so many, for me, it was always writing, by the way. I always did make time for writing. But there's so many women who love to draw or art or read or dance. I was just on a phone with a gal who said, boy, I realized I forgot how much I miss dancing. And so now I signed up for a hip hop class as an adult. And I'm like, that's amazing. Those aren't big, massive, I'm leaving my husband and starting a new career. Like,
yes,
it all pivots, all changes don't have to be massive. Crazy ones.
What did it look like for you from like a support system perspective? Did you even tell them I'm going to start blogging, or did you kind of just do it? What kinds of boundaries did you have to start setting with people, or maybe what was the impact on some of those relationships that maybe weren't as supportive?
Okay, to answer your question, number one, my husband was like, it's about time. Like, get on with it. Because, by the way, most men, I will tell you, they want us to be happy. Most men would rather have a really happy wife that shows up. We show up differently in everywhere, including the marriage. I show up differently as his partner. I'm excited and I'm happy. He's like, I'm in, sign me up. And by the way, I will say another thing that maybe is a little controversial. Men are kind of tired of carrying the full load. It's a lot because men, by the way, make their own sacrifices, right? Like it's hard to pay for the tuitions in schools and the sports. Like if it's just one carrying it, and sometimes it's the women, by the way. So women are the breadwinners as well, but it's hard work. So it's nice to have a partner in crime in those things. So my husband, he was like, thank you, God, baby Jesus, like all of them, go be, go do. So he's been amazing from day one. And he just laughs at me because he calls it sometimes, because there's not a lot of money when you start in entrepreneurship. Yeah. He's always like, how's that nonprofit business that we're in? Yes. I'm like, it's amazing. It's amazing. And then as far as boundaries, for me, I've always been a giver, and that's part of my caretaking. And that's part of how I now realize that I got a lot of validation, because if I couldn't do for myself and living my dream, I was going to make sure I did for everyone else, and not just my kiddos and my husband, but everyone. So being a yes person, giving. The boundaries came in by saying no. It's a full sentence. And number two, realizing that in this world, unfortunately, there are takers, there are givers, and I do better with both, the takers and givers. In that world, I can play in the sandbox really well. The takers, the vampires, I can tell you I'm not friends with a lot of people that I was 5 years ago, and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. I like that metaphor of who can I play in the sandbox with, because my daughter's 3.5. And so we're very much in the whole navigating how to play and turn taking and, all the things that come with that early preschool year stage.
Yeah.
But it's true for adults too. You do have to recognize who is going to contribute to your life and who you're able to contribute to as well. Mm-hmm. And not every relationship has to be that. Like there are some relationships where you're going to have times where you have to be the one giving more. That's part of kind of that give and take aspect of most relationships. However, as adults and having a lot of commitments in our life, we don't have time to be in relationships with people who are only takers. Nobody has that kind of time, effort, energy, money, whatever you want to call it, to give to anybody all the time.
No, not at all. It's funny because I had a friend, quote unquote, early on said when I started blogging, she was like, oh, I didn't know that you like to enjoy writing or you were a writer. And I said, when I got ballsy enough to say, you never asked. Because there are some people, takers, givers, people show up in your life. Are they interested in you? Because you can't just be interesting. You've also got to be interested. You've also got to be vested in their success. I've got to be vested in you and care about you and want to be sure to support you whenever and however I can. It's a conspire and togetherness that I love. And I've just realized now that I'm in my 50s, I can choose. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's kind of an intuitive thing that when you're in relationships with people, or do you give it a certain length of time to kind of see?
I think of Maya Angelou, who said, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time.
Oh.
Now, her quote, I can't tell you how many times I shoulda, coulda, woulda, I should have listened. And my instincts always tell me, they never fail me, because we are women, we are softies. We want to give people 2, 3, 4 chances. Like, not be so judgmental. Don't be so quick. But I know it deep down. I just know. You just know. When you know, you kind of know. Mm-hmm. And to your point, it's not like these become bad people. Like, oh my God, they're enemies. No, there's like layers of friendships, circles, right? Mm-hmm. There's my core, obviously, my boys, my family, my sissies. Like, these are my girls, my tribe. And then there's these collaborators through network, company, or community. They're circle. And then there's the outliers that I just know who they are. I won't be disappointed because I'm not going to invest in that. Then I cannot be disappointed. So anyway, Maya Angelou, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time.
That hits hard. Yes. Because
are you thinking of someone?
Well, yeah. And then you're kind of like, how have I not learned? learned learned my lesson. And then on the flip side of that, it's so interesting to me that you say that, because on the flip side, I feel like it's made me a little skeptical, to be honest. I can tell that I have a little bit of a guard up with certain interactions or the way that people reach out. I'm going to approach this with some skepticism, because this seems
Okay.
to, is the intention really in the right place, or is it just a sale for them? Right? Or a little bit of that me mentality, like that you see on social media and every coaching program that's out there. And it can feel like it's a lot of self promotion. And I
Right.
know that sometimes in some of my interactions with people, like I have to be very careful that I don't let that skeptical side of my brain get to be too far forward, and to just approach everything with an open mind. But then to your point, then I need to believe them the first time once they've actually shown their true cards,
Mhm.
that sort of thing.
It does make sense. And in
Yeah.
business, you're right. There is a lot of that. And truthfully, there's nothing wrong with identifying prospects or maybe someone that they feel like you really could benefit from their service. You get, by the way, the right to say no, thank you at any given point. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. Back to your point of no is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially in entrepreneurship, I mean, you know this, the amount of shiny objects, the amount of people promising you
Uh-huh.
big things with this very nominal fee of whatever their fee is. It's massive. Everyone has a promise. Everyone has a program. Everyone has a method. Everyone has an onboarding, a course, a work, but it becomes very difficult to decipher between what it is that is really needed. So it's really important as entrepreneurs, when you're having moments like I was just having my meltdown, to be like, pause, do not sign any contracts, do not take any phone calls, do not.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes. Because it is such a roller coaster of emotions. And
Mhm.
especially people who are really honed into their marketing, it is very emotionally leading. So whatever your given emotion is in that moment, it's very easy to then be like, I need that. I have to
Yeah,
have this $500 course. I have to pay for this $2,000 whatever guru that is going to help me with this, because this is going to fix all of my problems. Yes, you may need somebody to help you with sales or copy or whatever it is that you're struggling with, but don't do it in those high emotional moments of like, oh man, I'm broken, so therefore this is my solution.
exactly.
Yeah, you end up spending a lot of money if you go down the hole of every shiny object.
A lot of promises, a lot of promises. And I swear sometimes my head, like my neck hurts because I'm like this, my swivel like this, no, go this way, go this way, because everyone's got their little diamonds out. You're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I want that. I want those followers. I want visibility. I want. And it's like, remember, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter any of those exteriors. You got to know what you're selling, what you're standing for, and what you believe in your business. And, for me in particular, it's harder. There's a lot of gray, because I'm really selling a mission statement. It's a mission of waking up the sleeping beauties out there. And that in itself is, I don't have like a concrete workbook to show, I want to get on stages. I want to speak. I want to do these thought leader things that aren't always easy to identify as a sellable thing, if you will.
And I think that that's a good spot for us to end on. Is you just expressed a little bit about what you hope to see play out in your life with speaking and being in front of people and really collaborating and connecting. So what do you envision in the next few years for you?
So for me, the concept of BADE, which is be anything, do everything, it's a mindset shift for women. And it's to awaken the sleeping beauties out there. And we talked about all these women who are sort of going through the motions, yet not fully living. I really want to tap into them. And for me, if I can gain visibility and tap into their reawakening and play a small role in their little nudge, a little push for them to go be amazing and do great things, that is my mission. That brings me the greatest joy, and that impact that I can make. And it's almost like a domino effect, right? It's not necessarily just me. It's just like I'm one of many dominoes to fall or actually rise. It's the other opposite for dominoes. But the idea is, if I can do it through my spoken word, through my written word, that brings me joy. So for me, I see books in the future. I see journals in the future. I see speaking engagements in the future. I see workshops in the future. I do a little bit of coaching one-on-one, but for me, generally speaking, because I think women are so wraparound, I don't really want to do the one-on-one. I would rather bring them in my ecosystem and give them off to amazing female coaches, by the way, that are doing amazing work and really thrive in the one-on-one. It's not really where I feel my energy really fits. So my big dream is that people recognize this BAID mindset and are living it, or actually have incorporated it into their lives, where they're doing it and they're being anything and doing everything that they desire. The desire part is so critical.
That not contentment, fulfillment.
Yes. All the boxes that we're checking as women, because we check a lot of boxes. And I see you, ladies. I see you doing all the things. You're doing a lot. The busyness, I get it. It's legit. It's also a good excuse and a good way to hide in the busyness of it all. But those 8 out of 10 boxes you've checked, the house, the kiddos, the spouse, the whatever, the vacations, whatever you check, the handbag. I don't know what 8 boxes you checked. Most of us have checked 8 boxes. There's those 2 that are missing. I want you to really pay close attention to what those 2 are. And I believe that if you spend time there, that they're, number 1, they're worth your attention. Number 2, that if you can check those 2 boxes, that's when alignment comes in. That is that small adjustment I'm making that I'm suggesting you make to live a 10 out of 10 life. And I think it's doable.
Whew. It is so refreshing to hear your words, and it's so impactful. I think sometimes we need to hear somebody else give us permission, right? To feel like we can be just wild enough, just live on the dangerous side, just enough, because Mick is doing it. Mick was where I was, and then she found her way toward fulfillment, and she did it, and she found her support, and she did boundaries. And I think it can sometimes, again, coming back to that community piece, it can give us just enough strength to see or hear from someone else who's done it, to say, what if? What if I do it? What if I can step away from contentment and actually pursue fulfillment? And that's so powerful. So if someone wanted more from you, because those words are so empowering and addicting, and even for me, like it makes me just want to hear more and have more of those words coming into my head rather than that little gremlin over here. Where can people find you?
Well, certainly my YouTube channel.
Yay!
At MI Curtis YouTube, which I'm sure you'll include in the show notes. And I go on a weekly rampage, so you can listen to this every week and try to really hone in on one topic and keep it short, under 10 minutes, because we are busy. I also like to interview phenomenal women who are doing it, because I think we all learn by example, and we're all different, and we all have a different story, and everyone resonates differently and connects differently. So I think it's really important to share other women's story like you on the YouTube. I also blog. I try to blog once a week, because some people still enjoy reading and I still enjoy writing. So that is helpful. And just join me through my website and through my collective and through my own private community. And hopefully by fall, we'll have my book ready to go. So that's in the works. And listen, if you feel what I feel or even disagree, I'm in it, join, follow me on Instagram. Let's have a real conversation, because I think these conversations need to be had. I think it's really important. Agree or disagree, let's have them. I love being put in the hot seat. I love putting people in the hot seat. Bring it.
Yeah, I call them belief disruptors, right? That we see things from our own lens, and it is okay to challenge one another in a respectful, open-minded manner, where we're both coming to the table to hear how someone else thinks and sees the world. And it may just give you little tidbits that you can take away that might help adjust your mindset, or you both may walk away from the conversation keeping your mindsets, but it doesn't matter. You've learned through conversation, and that's so incredibly powerful.
100%. I nothing enjoy more than listening to other people's opinions, because one thing I have learned, ladies, and maybe this is a good takeaway for everyone, my opinions do not make me right, but the same is for you. So if we can sort of appreciate that and be open to listening and learning and growing, I think that's the best gift we can give ourselves.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thanks for wandering with me today. If you were inspired by this episode and think it would ignite a spark in a friend, don't hesitate to share. And if you're craving more from the Wander Mode community, hop on over to Instagram at WanderModeCo. Meet you in the next episode, and until then, wander on.